Friends, and welcome back to Panel Chewing Pick of the Week. This is issue number 89. Those of you new to the show, we are comic book readers who every week bring our stack to the table and we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. And if we crown a pick of the week, we talk about that towards the end. And then after that, we will be discussing the X-Men Claremont run that we're reading together. And we invite you to join us. We are reading the Claremont run for X-Men, and it is available on Hoopla or Libby, which is free to use. Just you connect with your local library. You can download the book and read it and check it out from your library free of charge. So we wanted to pick something that everyone can read along with us without any cost to them. So with all that said, Jarrod, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve. Thank you.
So, got a few to get to this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple to get to.
You're a comic book reading machine.
Yeah, it's sometimes it feels like cheating because we read a lot of novels, and novels take they take weeks.
Yeah.
To get through a novel, and you read a comic book in 20-30 minutes, you almost feel like, oh well, like I'm cheating.
I'm accomplishing something. It's great.
So quick. So you read a couple a day, and before I know, you have 7 or 8. So
I had a question for you.
Oh yeah.
Does your comic book store do they pull the comics for you? Do you have a pull list, or do you just go in and take them off the shelves?
Yeah, the ones that I know for sure I'll read. The ones that I'm completely on board with, I have my list, but the other ones I'll get off the shelf because some of them are kind of, you get to the store and you can see them on the shelf and you think, well, do I really want to, do I really want to continue this? So ones that I'm on the fence about, I'll have kind of, look for on the shelf. But the ones that I am fully on board with, they're on my pull list.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah.
Do you have is there a pull list on the site you buy your books from, or how does that?
No, there's not. So I end up just scrolling through whatever came out week to week, and having to remember what I'm reading. But usually it's not that hard because the ones you are reading kind of stand out, as you're scrolling through. So that's fine. But I do remember back in the day, I had a pull list and had my my retailer put aside the books for me, and you'd go in and you go right there and you get your stack, and then then you're like, oh cool, you're looking through it, make sure they got everything right, and then they used to have the previews, Diamond Comics previews thing. And so they had the shipping dates in there, and you'd be like matching up that with the books you got, and you'd be going, hey, what about this one? Where's that? And it's always like, oh, they're late. Yeah. That was 99% of the time they were late. The other 1% of the time they might have just missed it that week or whatever. But so it was pretty cool back in the day when I did that. But yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, sometimes I'll there's something I'm on the fence about, and I'll go to the store and I'll walk out and think, well, oh, I forgot such and such title. It's like, well, I guess I didn't read that bad. So, it's almost a way to weed things out that I don't remember.
Yeah, sure.
But I had a question for you. How do you feel about crossovers? And when I say crossovers, I mean franchised crossovers, like X-Men versus Godzilla, or Predator versus Venom, or Spider-Man. What are your thoughts on those?
Generally thumbs down. Yeah, not a big fan. Back in the day, it was kind of a big deal when they had the Aliens versus Predator. That was kind of one of the original ones, that I can remember. Maybe there might have been, some other stuff in the 70s that I don't know about, but that was the one I remember Dark Horse doing, and And that was actually, oddly enough, Chris Claremont that was writing it at the time.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed the heck out of it when that came out. But that was a bit more of a natural fit than some of the stuff you get nowadays, especially when, like you said, Predator versus Spider-Man or whatever. That's kind of like, really. But of course, after that kind of thing, the companies overdid it. It saturated the market. Did it too much. It got old fast. And it wasn't very. I don't think it was sustainable, and I don't think it was a very great idea to begin with. Unless it was done really well. But most of the time, it's just for sales, just to put something on a cover.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't really. This doesn't interest me. It seems wrong to have very different franchises and characters in the same universe. Kind of breaks the immersion for me. It just feels like it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a fan of that at all. I guess it's fun to, and when you're a kid, it's fun to think, what if so and so fought so and so, but I don't want to read a whole comic about it. Like I don't know. It's never been my thing. I've always been turned off by that.
Yeah, they did it quite a bit with Conan, and that's those were always the things that the Conan ones. I was just like, it just does not sit right at all.
I think the only one that maybe could be considered a crossover like that was back in the '90s. There was a Batman and Spawn crossover.
Oh yeah,
But I think they're pretty similar. I don't think it's that much of a stretch. But that's maybe the only one that I remember. I'm sure if I read it now, I probably wouldn't like it too much. But back then, it was the coolest thing. So. But with all that said, I guess we can get to the list.
yeah.
So, our first book this week is one that I have been reading and hanging on to, just because of Joe Flemire, which is Absolute Flash number 3. Now, I like his more character-focused style, but this Absolute book just isn't grabbing me. I know a little bit about the Flash, about the different Flash is, but I don't. I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like there's a joke being told, and I'm not getting the punchline. I'm not following it like an inside joke, or I just don't feel like it's. I'm not following along. I just don't get it. I do like those different kind of timelines and dimensions that they're playing with. I do like that aspect of the Flash. It's always been the more interesting aspects for me, like Flashpoint and things like that, where they play with the Speed Force and traveling through time. And that kind of. I've always liked that part of it. But through 3 issues, I look back and not a whole lot has happened. I can't really say a whole lot has happened yet. But again, it feels like 3 issues of setup, but it's Jeff Lemire, so I'm going to give it another one. I'm just going to I'm waiting for them to turn the corner, for something to happen, and I'm crossing my fingers that there would be some kind of breakthrough. If that makes sense. Yeah, so anyway, so yeah, I'm hanging up.
You have patience. You do have a lot of patience.
It's Jeff Lemire. I mean, I'm hanging up for Jeff. We'll see.
All right. My first book here is Vanishing Point number 1. Which I believe you read previously, and so this looks like it's going to be an anthology series, and sci-fi, and but it's not like a anthology that has a bunch of short stories in it. It's one single story in the book here, and I enjoyed it. It was for me. It was okay. It was I like the premise. I think it's one of those big sci-fi ideas. Those one of those sci-fi books that has a big idea, and they kind of explain it and go through it like a lot of the classic sci-fi novels and stuff like that of the sci-fi heyday in the 60s and stuff. It's got a big idea, and it goes through the characterization of this guy, and it emphasizes the loneliness of space and the loneliness of being out there, and missing family and what have you, missing home, and then it has this, this this twist, that this typical sci-fi twist that you're waiting for, and it delivers on that aspect of it. The artwork is, I'm not a huge fan of this style of artwork. It kind of like, it looks like animation almost, like TV show animation, which is fine, and it's very well done for what it is. It's just I kind of miss that hand drawn feel that I like with my comics. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool premise for a series, for Mag Cave to put out. I think it's a pretty cool premise, and I would like to see what they can do in the future with other stories and stuff like that. Even though the cover for the next issue kind of looks like the Jetsons, but
Yeah.
but we'll see if they stick with the TV animation style with the whole run here, or if they branch out into other types of artistic styles and expressions and stuff. But a solid issue all around. I mean, the story's solid. It's good. There's good characterization, and there's a nice sci-fi feel and twist to it. So it was definitely not the down button that you press. It was pretty decent.
Oh, nice. So not too bad, I guess. Not the trombone.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Mad Cave, the next one on my list is Dark Empty Void. This is 5 of 5. And when the series started, I think the one thing that really pulled me in was the interpersonal relationship of two of the characters. That there was an estranged husband and wife who were brought back together because of this black hole that was discovered. And that's really what kind of endeared me to the series, and why I held on for 5 issues, because of that connection. And I feel like it lost its way a little bit in the middle. And this 5th issue, I feel like it comes back up, we kind of come full circle, and we reconnect with the two main characters, and it kind of reflects on time and love and just life and loss and all those different themes that were kind of set up in the first issue or so. It feels like we kind of got a book into it now. And so that's really what is the highlight of the series for me, and everything else in between. There's some things that they did with the black hole storyline that fit into that, but a lot of it, I feel like this could have been like 3 issues long and had the same impact, because it kind of go away from that for a few issues, and I'm not sure why we did that. But, and also, forgiveness is a big part of this storyline too. Kind of forgiveness and or not necessarily forgetting, but moving on and turning the page. So yeah, I just felt like a lot of it, like the middle issues, felt like they didn't really add a whole lot to the story, because I feel like the emotional punch and the weight of the story is that relationship, and in the middle it just felt like almost like a waste of time. But overall, I think it was a good series. I'm glad I held on. I'm glad I waited. I felt like the end was pretty satisfying.
Always cool to have a satisfying ending. Next book we have is the New Gods, number 6. A book that continues to surprise me with how much I'm enjoying it. I think it's going to be hard to maintain the highs of this book that has landed it in pick of the week territory with previous issues. But I am lowering my expectations for it because of that, because I don't want to have these huge expectations going into every month. Um, and I'm glad because it just continues to surprise me a little bit every month. And this one was no exception. We had this new style, this new artist doing the beginning of this book, and in the majority of it, actually, it's like a good 14 pages or so, telling this different story of one of these new gods. And it was a unique art style, kind of, I guess, colorish type thing going on. And it was a unique look at one of these new gods, this black racer, who's kind of like the new god's version of death, the god of death. And but he's quite a different god of death. He's not like the scary, you know, scythe wielding skeleton looking dude. It's he's quite different. And I really like how the artwork portrayed it. I like how it tied into what happened in the previous issue with one of the other New God characters, and it tied into it, but also gave its own little history, mythology going on with the god of death there, and it was just beautifully done. And then, like the last 4 or 5 pages of the book, we get the tie into what's going on Earth, and I was once again. I know last issue we were kind of worried about the involvement of the Justice League and Superman and all that stuff, and that comes to fruition in this book as well, but not in a bad way at all. I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, kind of makes sense, and so far it fits. And there wasn't really enough of that story in here to get much told, other than probably setting up the next issue. But once again, the book surprised me, and I was happy to read it, and I'm happy to keep going with it. It's one of the only DC books that I do that with. so really cool.
Yeah, I have this book. I just didn't get to it this week. But glad to hear it wasn't a bad crossover, or with the other heroes being introduced.
Yeah. I think that the strength of the book is that it continues to give us something unique to look at every month. Yeah.
So the next one for me is a reread. Actually, for me, I had read the Blood Brothers Mother several months ago, the first issue, and I fell off of it, and I wanted to catch up and read the series again, so I started off with issue number 1 again. It's a very dark Western, and it's a story about a criminal who was in a Mexican prison for many years, who is released, and when he's released, he wants to go back and find his wife. Come to find out, his wife had moved on with someone else, and things don't go very well. But in between, there's lots of violence. It does portray the Wild West as this lawless, very violent place, and in that sense, it can be very brutal at times. It's very violent. But so far, I really like the setup for it. I like the artwork, and yeah, I'm glad I'm going to go back and I'm glad I reread this one before continuing with the series, because there's a lot of setup in this one, and that's really what this one is, just a lot of setup. And I feel like the story is about to start kind of taking off in the next issue and following issue. So yeah, I'm glad I reread it. It's a series I think I'm going to enjoy. I really like the Wild West stories, that portrays it as this really dangerous place, somewhere where anything can happen. Lots of like a revenge, kind of Unforgiven type of story. So yeah, good stuff. I'll be continuing this one, of course, and reading issue 2 next week.
Yeah. Have you read the whole series or just number 1?
Just the first one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to go back and reread it because it's been a few months, so I wanted to refresh my memory.
Cool. Very cool. Next up, I have Life Number 5 from our friends at Distillery Comics. And this uh, this is the penultimate issue of the series. It's gonna cap off at number 6. And it was pretty exciting, actually. It's been a while since I read number 4, so I kind of had to remind myself about who these characters were and which ones were which, because the artwork is like very dark and inky, I guess is the word you could use.
Pretty muddy. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a little muddy. Yeah, that's a good term. And so sometimes it's hard to tell a little bit who's who. But once I figured it out, the story flew by. It was really exciting. It was really leading up to, it looks like it's going to be a pretty spectacular ending that I'm looking forward to, because it it had a couple surprises in this issue. Um, Once you refamiliarize yourself with the characters, you'd be like, oh yeah, that character, okay, and then you get a couple of surprises here, and a couple of and it really just set up what could lead to a potentially exciting ending for the next issue. And once again, you have the it's a flip book, which you don't really get the full effect when it's on screen. But this one, has the pro story and then the con story, and this one was one of the first issues where they actually repeated some frames from one story to the next. They kind of have been avoiding that, but I think there's only so long you can do that when the stories are converging the way they are. So this one, they actually repeated some of the story from the pro side to the con side, and it was only like 1 or 2 pages just to reinforce where it is within the whole framework. And so but it was, you know the Azzarello is a pretty good storyteller, and it looks like he's going to, if he finishes off in the similar manner that he's been telling this story so far, it looks to be like it's going to be pretty good. So this was a good lead up to that.
I really like this series. I haven't read the 5th issue yet, but I thought it was very clever and very well done.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to that 5th issue. Good stuff.
Cool.
And stories like this, I know we've talked before, stories like that really are served well by that format, the longer format. Gives more runway each issue.
Yeah, a nice 50-page issue. It's really nice.
So I have 2 more before we get to our picks. The first one is the Terminator number 7. This is by Dynamite. So this one basically is the Terminator is sent back in time to World War II Germany, into a concentration camp where it's going to eliminate someone in the camp. And
wow,
there was lots of commentary, which I thought was pretty. Story-wise, there's not a whole lot in this issue, but I thought the questions that it poses were interesting. Which is if because I think we view the Terminator as evil and bad, but if humans have always been behind all these really heinous acts, I think it's framed in World War II. In this context on purpose, obviously, to kind of demonstrate what people are capable of. If we are capable of such things, and we are capable of creating Skynet and the Terminator, is it really the Terminator that's the bad guy, or is it us? Or are we the kind of the source of all evil? And I thought it was an interesting question that was posed, and like I said, the story itself is pretty light, but I walked away with some things to think about. So, I thought it was pretty clever in that way.
That's cool.
So this series, it's been a little up and down. There's some issues that I feel like they get their point across, and some not so much. But yeah, I thought this was interesting issue. Now the last one for me is What Happened to the Crimson Justice number 1. This is where Matt gave. This was nearly my pick. This is a mix between The Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight version of Batman, an old, upset, pissed off, retired or ready to retire version of Batman with a little bit of Watchmen mixed in. And it 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 very blatantly takes things from the Batman universe and from Watchmen and places it in this story, but reframes it with these characters. And I'm kind of torn on whether I like that or not, because some of it is very on the nose. Some of it is very obviously, I mean, just very obviously taken from that universe. So it's an old hero that is thought to be dead. He's retired and he's watching the city kind of crumble and fall into deeper into chaos, and he's just deciding to retire and not intervene. Meanwhile, his arch nemesis villain reappears and starts doing things to people. I won't say what. And he has to decide whether or not he's going to pick up the cowl and the cape and do something about it, or if he's going to stand on the sidelines and just pretend that nothing ever happens and enjoy his, I guess, quiet, not so much peace, but quiet. And the reason I say it reminded me of Watchmen too is because there's some people who were influenced or who were encouraged because of the Crimson Justice to don a cape and to go out and to fight crime and to do the right thing, and they end up getting themselves hurt or getting themselves killed or getting other people killed because they're trying to emulate the Crimson Justice, and they end up doing things that aren't intended. So it kind of reminded me of kind of the other heroes in Watchmen that, while in good intention, they end up doing really dumb things. So, yeah. So I like the setup. I thought it was a good setup. The only reason it wasn't my pick is it's just a little too on the nose with some of the other elements of the story. But I think there's this really fine line between inspired by and then really just taking like a carbon copy of something. That's where I'm kind of torn. But I like the framework, and I like kind of what it's setting up. I just hope it delivers on it. I'm hopeful. So I like the artwork. I thought the artwork was good. The colors are good. The characters, I thought the designs were fine. So I'm hopeful this will deliver, because it is taking elements from stories that I really like. So we'll see how it plays out.
Cool. All right. Well, time for pick of the week, right?
Yep.
And
pick of the week.
That was a tough choice, actually. I almost picked Life, number 5, but I decided to go with The Killer, Affairs of the State 2, number 1. And that's interesting because I never even knew there was an Affairs of the State 1. But I saw this and I was just like, on a whim, I just clicked on it and picked it up. It had it mailed to me, and because I did read The Killer back in the day from Archaea Comics, and I have like the first 3 volumes somewhere on my shelf, and I remember enjoying them quite a bit. Couldn't tell you specifics, but I do remember I enjoyed them quite a bit. And so I picked this up, and I was instantly brought back into this world by the illustrator Luc Jacamon. I think his artwork is just spectacular. I really love it. He has great detail. He has great sense of panels, placements, moving from one to the next. His scenery is outstanding, and I just love his character work and everything. I think he's a great artist. He really pulls stuff off pretty well, and it's just beautiful to look at. So that drew me in right away. I was just like, yeah, look at this stuff. And the story, oddly enough, was compelling in a way that I wasn't lost. Like I don't feel like I missed anything by missing the previous series called Affairs of the State. I felt like I was being drawn into a brand new story, something new, and so it wasn't like I was thrown into the middle of something I didn't understand that went on before. So that was a plus, because you never want to have to go back and get books to understand something. Um, if a monthly comic is doing its job, it's going to at least give you a sense of what's going on. But this one was just like a brand new story right off the bat, so I didn't. It was cool in that way. There is a lot of philosophizing in this particular issue. There's a lot of exposition of the interior thoughts of our assassin. That's what the guy does. He's an assassin, and so there's a lot of him just thinking to himself, and the artwork is reflecting his thoughts about history and his thoughts about mankind. And he's kind of comes off as quite nihilistic. This guy, he's an assassin for hire, so it kind of makes sense. But what's cool about the story is his actions reflect somebody different that it seems like he's not quite willing to admit, that he's not quite as nihilistic as he comes off, as he's trying to tell us that he is. And so I really enjoyed that contrast between his thoughts and his actions. He has a bit more empathy for people than what he portrays, and so it was a really neat issue for that reason. There's a lot of words in it, and that might put some people off because it's almost like reading a book. But but the pictures are beautiful that go along with these words, and how it actually plays out and leads up to the next issue. I'm definitely getting the next issue because I just want to know what's going to happen next. And so that was my pick of the week.
I can't wait to read that one too. I was a big fan of the other stories I've read in the Killer world, and I do like he's kind of if you saw him on the street, you'd think he's just a normal.
Yeah,
he's not. He's just a normal person. He's not very imposing. Looks like a kind of a nerd. Like wouldn't think twice. It turns out he's this really dangerous, ruthless killer who relies more on his cunningness and intelligence and his patience rather than muscles and.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely not imposing. He's a thinker rather than a brute force type of killer.
Really like that character. All right, so for my pick this week, I did pick Sleep #1 by Image Comics. This one, the setup is there's a small town, and there is possibly a monster on the run that is running around killing animals and wreaking havoc, and our main character may or may not be involved somehow. I thought this book did a great job of setting up the setting and the town and the people in the town and their interactions and their dynamics. It reminded me a little bit of Minor Arcana in the sense of the town becomes a character and the focus is on the interactions between the characters, and that gives you an idea of kind of makes you feel like you're there and you know these people and you start to learn about them and become invested in the different characters and kind of what their histories are. So I really like that. I think it did a great job. The artwork is very clean. It's black and white, and it does have certain items are red, and I don't think all the items that are red is on accident. His eyeglasses are red. There's some blood that's red in the book, obviously, but it really stands out on the page when you have black and white, like a monochrome, and you have red on the page. And there's certain things that are red, and I don't think any of it is an accident. I think it's very deliberate, and I think there's something really clever going on here. I just don't know what it is. But it really pops off the page, and it gives you like a haunting, mysterious vibe. And yeah, I think there's something very significant with what is red in this book, and I can't wait to find out what it is. But it's a great first issue. Like I said, I think the setup was perfect in this one, and it gives you enough, but not too much. And I know I'd read another couple of comic book reviewers who said it ended abruptly and it ended in a weird place, but I didn't think that at all. I thought it was a great ending to the first issue. It just gives you enough to, like, a to be continued kind of thing, and gives you a little clue of what may or may not be happening. Keeps you guessing. So yeah, I thought it was a great first issue. I really liked the whole presentation. I thought was great. So that is my pick of the week.
Very cool.
Well, that said, just go to X-Men.
Uncanny X-Men number 105. Yeah, we get introduced to Firelord.
I like how they introduce themselves like, I am Fire.
Yes, I am Firelord. Yeah. Yeah, they all do that too. They all do that. And he was kind of tricked by Eric the Red into working for him. Firelord, the hothead, literally. And so, he comes in, he handily just beats down the X-Men, like, boom. Herald of Galactus, here we go. Boom, I'm killing you guys all. I'm taking all you guys out. But, yeah, then we get introduced to Lilandra, the princess of the rebellious Shias. And I found it interesting that the Shire Imperials mentioned having this prime directive, and I was like, oh, I wonder where they got that from. That sounds very Star Trek.
It does, yeah.
And they're like a galaxy spanning empire, so it's just like, okay. But they got scared off from Earth because they heard that Earth fought off Galactus.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
And I thought that was hilarious, yeah. Yeah. So then, and then Phoenix shows her power. Mm-hmm. Right? Of course, she had to announce she was the Phoenix. And
of course.
Fights off to Firelord later on when he tries to take down Professor X. And but we kind of learned that Eric the Red is a part of this Imperial Shire Empire. I'm not sure if we knew that before.
Looking back, the uniform should have been a dead giveaway because of his whole costume.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's yeah. So I don't know. What'd you think of the issue itself? I thought it was a pretty cool issue. 105 was.
Yeah, I thought I always get a good big kick out of I am Firelord, the introduction to different creatures, but I like seeing Phoenix kind of let loose a little bit, and I do remember some cosmic things later in the series, so it was neat to see that being set up here because I remember some things later.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that, and of course the artwork. I just love the artwork.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And the Phoenix mentions that her power was like a drug, and I thought that was a pretty little subtle thing there that was cool. And then she activates the portal at the ending, so that was a pretty interesting ending to that issue, which kind of leaves you in a cliffhanger. Where are they going? What are they going to encounter? And then we don't get an answer in the next issue.
No.
I'm like, what is happening here? I don't know if you knew what was going on in number 106, but I had no clue.
Yeah. No, I was a little confused. It kind of, so like where 105 ends and 106 begins, I guess it kind of picks up where it leaves off, but it focuses more on Professor X and the other X-Men coming back, the older team coming back. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
was a little.
I
Yeah,
was confused because I thought the X-Men went with Phoenix,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden
they didn't.
Professor X is having this. I
Alter
guess
ego.
this villain is an alter ego of his and a doppelganger of some sort, and messing with his head. I was really confused with this. I didn't know if this was a fill-in issue, a flashback. I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, I was confused with this one too. I thought because Professor X does mention that he is, um, he seems like he's having this battle. And he says that all this is happening because of him. That he's set this all up to happen. So I was a little bit. I was um, because I am the deadliest foe you've ever faced. So I kind of feel like he's pitting people against each other unintentionally or intentionally, but he doesn't subconsciously realize it. Is the way I kind of took it. But yeah, I was a little lost with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then next issue it says at the end it's like next issue Star Jammers are coming, so that's back to the the Shire Imperial storyline, and so it just left me more confused. Like, what was this issue? I just don't. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the whole. He's so is he. So his like all his dark Professor X is setting up the old X-Men and the new X-Men to fight and almost to create conflict or to battle each other. But yeah, I'm a little bit lost in that. What exactly is going on here?
Yeah, I guess I should have looked it up to determine whether or not this was a fill-in issue.
Maybe. Seems like a strange time to have a fill-in issue.
It was, yeah. I mean, I get that they had to have them. I mean, I guess you had to give an artist a break at some point, but it just seemed really strange placements and not much explanation as to what was going on and what warranted Professor X breakdown in the middle of a different story.
Yeah. Or is this a flash? Is this a flashback?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know who this alter ego doppelganger dude is.
Or is
I don't remember.
Like a hallucination?
Could be that too. Yeah. Maybe somebody can tell us, but
yeah. Well, we'll find out. I'm guessing the next issue. What the hell is going on here? I'm glad I wasn't the only one because I was a little confused after finishing 106.
Yeah, because 105 was great.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It's one of the better ones we've read, I thought it was pretty cool. And with the Phoenix coming into a power, yeah, it's great.
That's really cool. Yeah, and like you mentioned, I did like the comment about it being like a drug.
Yeah.
For power. Craves more of it. So that's not a good recipe. Not a good thing. Someone being so powerful.
Yeah, cool stuff.
So yeah, we'll do 2 more again next week. Hopefully we'll answer some questions that we've had, and if you know the answer, let us know. Either there's a link down below so you can send us a message directly, or you can join our forums and talk about it with us there. But until next week, Jarrod, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me on Speculative Speculation Podcast and other fine podcasts on pagechewing.com.
You can find all the links down below to find us. And yeah, hopefully you had a great reading week, and hopefully you enjoyed your stack of books that you have waiting for you and found something new that you enjoy. And we will talk to everyone very soon. And in the meantime, we hope you find your pick of the week.
Bye-bye.